death of my ideas is the birthing place of his purpose. God works in crushing. And it pleased him to bruise it. It pleased God to bruise us. Not because he is sadistic, not because we are masochotic. It pleases him to bruise us because he knows that the end result will put us in a state where we can no longer ferment, where we can handle a setback, a disappointment, where we can handle a hurt. See, wine doesn't spoil. It'll last for years and years and years in the dark, in the basement, in the cellar, because it's been through enough crushing to endure time. And you can tell when a person has been crushed because they are survivors.
It doesn't take much faith to give God glory when all your bills are paid. You don't have to be real strong when everything is well in your life. But when the bottom falls out, when sickness comes, when trials and difficulties come, when your health starts to fail, when your children break your heart, when difficulties, tough times, hard days, long nights, it is then that your faith kicks in to let you know that he's a very present help in the time of trouble.
I'm tired of playing defense on the faith journey. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of apologizing. Do you ever just get tired of reacting to the devil and his schemes? I want to be somebody who's directing. I want to be somebody who's leading. I don't want his threats to dictate one step that I take. So many of us, we tiptoe through life to simply arrive safely at death. It is a fact that you will die. The question today is, will you ever actually live?
You have to possess your future. Take it by the throat and determine that it's not too late. I don't care what you did. I don't care whether you've been in drugs. I don't care whether you've been in the street. I don't care whether you've been through bankruptcy. I don't care whether you lost your house. God is a God of second chances, brother. Get back up again.
Maybe you're unhappy right now with your current job. Maybe you're unhappy with your health, or maybe you're unhappy with the season of life you find yourself in. Has it ever occurred to you that you are not there by coincidence, but rather you are there by providence? Has it ever occurred to you that God has a plan, that he's putting the puzzle together, and that you must recognize, regardless of the season, I am here for such a time as this? See, there's a reason for your season. There's purpose in your pain. There is a design in the disaster. There's hope in the hurt. There's life even after death. I think it's time for a turn.
And you know what? Those days are good for us. It's good to go through those days. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. And don't complain your way through small beginnings. Because if we cannot learn to be thankful for those things, trust me, you will not be thankful when God gives you more. Because going through the hard times and remaining thankful builds character in us that we need to remain stable when God gives us more to be responsible for. We should have a goal to be the most thankful person on the face of the earth. Go through each day thanking God for little things like hot water and a friend and every convenience that you have, and do all things without grumbling and fault-finding and complaining.
We all have things that come against us and try to keep us from our destiny. Most of what we struggle with didn't start with us. It was passed down. Things like depression, anger, divorce. Studies show how that can get passed from generation to generation. If your mother was depressed, there's a good chance you'll have to deal with depression. Just like a lady that's on drugs and gives birth to a baby, that baby can have the same addiction as the mother. There's no fault of the babies, it's just life. What you're dealing with may not have started with you, but it can stop with you. God wants to give you rest from those enemies. As long as we accept dysfunction as the norm, it will never change. If you see that depression, that lack and struggle as your lot in life, you'll not only get stuck, but you'll pass it on to the next generation.
Is there anybody in this building that's tired of being discontent? And you want to be able to say, if I get my way, I'm going to be happy. If I don't get my way, I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to let my circumstances control my moods. I am content and emotionally stable. That is my goal, to be content and emotionally stable.
Your life is a seed. The seed has to be coupled with a healthy environment. The seed has to go into the soil. It has to be healthy soil. The seed needs water. The seed needs sunlight. See, you and I are the same thing. We're a seed. We have to connect it to a community of people that are healthy and vibrant and believe the best really is in store for us. Because you're kind of saying, I'm over it. But if you would share your calling, the moment you say, I'm over it, you would have somebody else walk up to you and say, wait a minute, let me just shed some light onto that dark area so that you can grow again. You're not quitting today. You're not quitting tomorrow. You're going to run this race of faith and you're not going to give up.
Just like that, God can move you from nowhere to somewhere with such rapid speed that you need not be troubled by the years of being ignored.
Right.
Because once God moves you to the forefront, you will never be ignored again.
Because crying and complaining is not going to stop the trouble. Murmuring and groaning is not going to stop the trouble. And the purposes that God wants to work out in our lives may include trials, setback, heartbreak. It may mean that you have to stay sick a while. It may mean that you have to go through it a while. You're not going to come through it yet because God has his mighty hand on you. And that hand on your life is so powerful to get purpose out of you.
As long as you accept the dysfunction, even when God sends you a way out, you'll talk yourself out of it. You think it's normal to live depressed, addicted, angry, lonely. This is a new day. You may have been ruled by those things for years. They may have been passed down by previous generations, but that is not your destiny. What's limited you in the past doesn't have to limit you in the future. You can rise out of lack, struggle, not having enough. You have seeds of greatness. You were created to lend and not borrow. You can be free from depression, low self-esteem, insecurity. Don't let limited thinking keep you from your destiny.
Got to get the word. Happiness is something you design. Happiness is a study. Happiness is a practice. Happiness is an art. It's not an accident. It's an art. And anybody that wants to can study, practice the art, happy living. Happiness is like culture. Money doesn't make you cultured, but culture is within the grasp of all of us. All you have to be is committed to it and make it a study. Culture is a study. Sophistication is a study. It's not an amount. It's not an account. It's a study. Money doesn't make you sophisticated. Only study and practice makes you. Only study and practice makes you cultured. And only study and practice makes you happy. Study and practice makes you rich. Be brains. Don't be lazy and learn. 1, how to do well. Next, how to live well. Don't be lazy in learning and practicing the art of economics and practicing the art of lifestyle.
So as you begin to look at life, as you begin to look at the things you want to do, decide that you're going to become the active force in your life. Decide that you're not going to go through life feeling like a victim. Decide that when things become challenging, that you're not going to personalize it, that you're going to look at it, and you do whatever you must do in order to work things out and learn from it. That's the key. You will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges.
You know, life will do this to you. Try to label you according to your educational background, according to your ethnicity, according to whether you're a man or a woman, according to your... Life will try to label you this way. I want to make an announcement. You can't disappoint what God has appointed. You can't disappoint. When God gets ready to do a work in your life, when God gets ready to raise you up,
Every other voice may be negative, telling you how you're not going to get better. You feel alone, isolated, means you're in the wrong stadium. The enemy has a stadium filled with accusers, discouragers. Don't go there. That's the opponent's stadium. Your game is being played on the home field. Everyone in these stands is pulling for you.
Predictability creates stability. Structure creates steadiness. You need the set and stick with a routine for the duration of this pandemic. Stop watching so much news because it's all negative right now. And for your own mental and emotional and spiritual health, you need to monitor your media intake.
You got to resource yourself well, file every day, read every day. And so at 17, I started reading and filing every day and literally have done it all my life. And one day I began to realize I was relying way too much on those files, that I wasn't as creative and I wasn't testing what I should be testing because I had a safety net. I go over there and, well, here I got this. And I was starting to read old thoughts, and old thoughts are old thoughts.
I cannot have another year like I had. I cannot sit in this addiction for another 12 months. I refuse to live like this again. Something's got to give. I'm desperate, and I've got a hunger for God that only God can fix and God can fulfill and God can do in my family and in my home. To be slain with the sword is better than to be slain with hunger. Better to go down fighting than to sit there and die.
We forget that you don't have to be famous to have the ability to change at least your own personal history, to change the direction we go in our life. We have the power to choose, even if you haven't before. You can finally say, no more, I won't put up with that, within myself or from anybody else. And here's what I'm going to do differently. That's where the breakthroughs really start to happen. Now the question is, why do some people stand their ground and make something change versus other people just kind of accept things?
Whenever you ask for change, you've got to be prepared for disruption. If you plant an oak tree in the earth, it's going to disrupt the soil. If you plant a peach tree in the soil, it's going to disrupt the ground. There's no way you can have growth.
I made a decision, a very difficult decision, all of my work for all those years of filing. I made a decision to get rid of all of it. They're not relevant, they're not new, they're not fresh, they don't breathe, there's no fire and passion in them. I'm just going to say to you, one of the good things about a crisis is it begins to help us to let go of the things that we have depended on the past so that we can go to an entire new level of living.
Hold your head up and dry your tears. You have nothing to be ashamed of. If you want to begin to move, you've got to clear your mind of all the unnecessary luggage and baggage that's weighing us down. Let it go and begin to focus on developing myself. And I say to you, you're going to have people to do things to you. Things are going to happen to you. And the most important thing to do is to harness your will and let it go and move so you can grow, so you can get on with your life. It doesn't matter about what happens to you. What matters is, what are you going to do about it?
Carefully consider how you live. So live wisely, not foolishly. Make the most of your time because these are difficult days. You need to have a routine. Now, when you're stuck at home, it's so easy to slip into sloppiness. I want you to write this down right now. Routine develops resilience.
I believe that we have an obligation to God to learn how to live in victory. I want you all to make a decision this morning before we go any further at all. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Neither let them be afraid. Stop allowing yourselves to be agitated and disturbed. And do not permit yourselves to be fearful and intimidated and cowardly and unsettled.
One woman just decided, you know what? You can't take my dignity from me. I can only give that up, and I don't choose to give it up. And I will not go back to the bus. The answer is no. And Rosa Parks changed an entire society because that day she chose to focus on something else. She gave it a different meaning. This is not a command. You do not have control over me. And she decided to fight. And she changed the direction of a country and of many other countries. She started something.
There's some things that you can accomplish that you can't see right now. My favorite book says, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor has entered the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. When you're willing to say yes, when you're willing to move forward, life will respond to you. Mindset transformation is very important. Be ye not conformed to this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You don't want to think like everybody else. You want uncommon thinking. Expand your skill set.
Never live your life in probability. Probability is the probability of something happening. There's a statistic attached to a probability. 1 in every 3,000 people do this. That's a probability. A possibility has no stats attached to it. Live your life in possibilities and you change it. Just change the way you think.
You can't see how the fact that they laid you off from that job was actually preparing you for something, teaching you some things, got to get you some discipline in some areas, and that later on a door would open up that God would use to move you into new dimensions. But you can't see the destiny in the face of the disappointment. Sometimes God will give you enough of the details to get you in the right area, but he won't give you enough specifics where you don't need him to show you what to do next.
There's things in your life that are necessary, but they're unpleasant. Working out my legs is necessary, but it's unpleasant. Why is it necessary? Because it's the largest muscles in your body. See, what you learn is this thing called unintended consequences. You don't know what type of fight you got to face on Tuesday. You don't know what your boss is going to come and say on Friday. But thank God you've been putting in some work on the interior life that when you need to fight, you got some strength.
For 29 years, kicking cancer's butt and still working, still in his right mind, still got the fire in his belly. Still being active, still making a difference, still motivating people and inspiring people and making people feel good. If you believe that laughter is important, if you believe being deliberately positive is important, having a spirit of optimism is important in spite of.
If you've had a dream, I guarantee you were born with that dream woven into your DNA. You see, dreams are deeply personal. And this is important for you to understand, because if you give up on your dream's going to haunt you.
I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to do it, I'm all in. I'm the kind of person, I don't like being in between. I don't like to be at the back of the line. I want to be in the front of the line, and I'm going to prepare myself and work on myself to be a dominant voice.
Happiness is freedom from the negative children of fear, such as worry, low self-esteem, envy, greed, anger, resentment, and so on. Happiness is an awareness and a grasp of the positive power of life and loving values. It is an order of thought, activity, and lifestyle. Happiness is values in balance. It is contact with people of substance.
There's another dimension, which is trait conscientiousness, which is integrity and dutifulness, orderliness, industriousness, openness, which is like a hybrid between intelligence, roughly, and creativity. And so you can go there and find out how you compare to other people. And that's kind of interesting and useful, because it's kind of useful to know who you are. And to know that that's actually who you are, you know, that you have a nature.
When suffering hits my life, I hope I have been putting into my interior life. But in order to use all those other muscles to face suffering, you're going to actually have to put in and focus on the body and focus on your legs and understand it. It's leg day. It's going to have some unintended consequences. And his big leg day workout routine for you is this little phrase, live in harmony.
You can take an introvert. You know you're an introvert if when you're around people, you get exhausted by it, you have to go off by yourself and recover. You know, then you're an introvert. And if you're an introvert, you don't really like being in groups. And so sales, you know, maybe that's not for you, you know. And that's a good thing to know, because if you're an introvert, why go be a salesperson and be miserable? Do something where you can spend time alone and not be miserable. That's better.
Happiness is contentment with the tasks of your life. It is thought inspired by, organized with, and rooted in your personal philosophy, to become an invaluable form of currency for you to spend and invest in your own better future. Happiness is activity with purpose. It's love in practice.
When the seed is sown into your heart, the devil comes immediately to try to steal the seed that was sown. And I think one of the ways that he does it is by very simply testing you on what you just heard. And we need to get it. Learn a new sentence. This is only a test. Can we practice? Say, this is only a test.
If it's in your imagination, it's possible.
Do you know that you can't think of something that can't happen? You know it's impossible to think of the impossible. It's not possible. So if you think it, it's possible. And if you live your life in possibilities instead of probabilities, you have a greater chance of finding happiness.